Hello everyone. This story is about, what if Naruto was raised by the ANBU and fall in love with Ino? He is very strong and smart, being a fuinjutsu genius and trained by the ANBU commander Ryo. Please like, share and subscribe for more amazing stories like this one. Now let's start. Diligence is a virtue, a lesson the Sandaime Hokage had often revisited for Naruto. It was one of the many sayings the old man would repeat as if trying to brand the knowledge onto the boy's brain. As such, Naruto had never once failed to remind himself to be diligent. Whenever the boy felt his sneaky laziness creep in, the Sandaime's words would return to aggressively banish those notions. When Naruto's brothers had given him a mile-long reading list, he had felt daunted and encumbered, but the old man's lessons activated. He diligently read through every book, no matter how repetitive and mundane they became as he approached the end. There were only so many ways words could describe a gentleman, and Naruto had read them all. In so many words, but in not so many ways, the boy learned how to behave around women, to be a gentleman. He acted as such, helping a damsel in distress, but the books never mentioned the strain on his mental fortitude. Please stay still, Nachan. He tried to remain calm as all healers should be as his hand hovered over the lady's head, his chakra trying to heal her ailing pain, but she seemed determined to look him in the eye. The lady was beautiful, far too beautiful, and the intensity of her gaze made it hard to look at her, but it was also hard to look away. "Who are you?" she whispered, her eyes peeking from under his healing hand, trying to look at him. "You're a Konoha shinobi," she stated, clearly by seeing his Hatayate, "but you're so young. Are you here alone? Where's your sensei or leader?" "My Gigi is looking around for his friend," Naruto managed to say, forcing himself to only look into the lady's eyes. "So, he let you wander off alone?" she asked with a slight glare, her face still flushed with alcohol. "It's dangerous here. Just a few days ago, you could have been kidnapped by those hoodlums." Naruto braved a small grin. "It's okay, Nachan. I'm young, but I'm a genin of Konoha. I'm stronger than I look." The lady leaned closer and pointed at him, almost poking his nose. "I'll have you know, little boy, that being a genin doesn't mean anything. You're way too young to be out here by yourself." She looked down and glared at the ground. When will they learn to not send children out on missions? "Be a gentleman," Naruto repeated to himself. He was helping a damsel, and the last thing he should possibly do was to look at her improperly, but she was leaning towards him and looking down. Her swaying breasts, just waving from side to side, just beneath his trembling eyes. Why was her blouse so loose? Was her robe becoming undone? Forcing himself to only look at the lady's head, Naruto scrambled to keep conversing. "Are you a kunoichi, Nachan? You seem to know an awful lot about team structures." He was proud of himself for not stuttering too much. "Where are you from?" She looked up at him again, her gaze scrutinizing his every twitch, but even from his high eye level, he could see her chest bounce from her sudden movements. He felt his cheeks burn, but she was leaning even closer to him. And before he could say anything, her fingers were pinching his burning cheeks, making them burn more. "Ow," he cried, "what are you doing?" The lady was pulling his cheeks from side to side. "You're still too squishy, little boy." She stared into his eyes, and he saw some tears welling in hers. "You should be at home playing with toys and playing with friends. What are you doing all the way out here?" "No," she whimpered, "little boys like you need to stay safe at home. Your family can't lose you." Naruto finished healing her head and pulled his hand back, just staring at the lady. "Are you okay, Nachan?" A single tear fell. "Nachan, huh," she whispered, "you look a little bit like my baby brother, especially with that Hatayate. You're even younger than he was when he became a genin." She weakly chuckled, still lightly pinching his cheeks. "And you look a lot like this other little boy I used to know." She managed, "they both died way too young." "Was your brother a Konoha shinobi?" he gently asked. Are you a Konoha kunoichi?" "I haven't been for a long time," she replied weakly, her eyes wavering. "I was getting too old and they kept sending out people who were too young." She gave him a small smile, tugging on his cheeks again, before patting his head. "Like you, little boy." Naruto frowned. I'll have you know that I am very strong for my age, he muttered, but if you are a Konoha kunoichi, what are you doing here? Are you on a mission right now? His eyes narrowed, or are you a missing nin? The lady giggled, patting his head with a hiccup. Ah, are you going to take me back if I am? She laughed, pouring herself another drink. What a sight that would be, for the people of Konoha. One of the Sannin being captured and taken back by a tiny genin. Naruto's eyes widened. Sannin? My grandmother would roll in her grave, she uttered as she downed her drink, but my grandfather would probably laugh in his. Why Naruto whispered, you're Senju Tsunade. He leaned back a little, looking at her. No, are you? You look so. He remembered to act like a gentleman. Why you're still so young and beautiful. You're a little charmer, the lady smirked and patted his head, lightly flicking his forehead. That's right, little boy. You're looking at one of the Sannin. She laughed and shook her head, sorry for the disappointment. People like to sing our praises, but in all honesty, none of us were ever that great. Her chakra flared briefly as if to address his doubts, and he felt a tidal wave of power emanate from her. We can kill most people, but we aren't the saints they teach you about in the academy. Naruto stood to his feet and bowed. It's an honor to meet you, Tsunade-sama. She chuckled, don't bow to me, kid. I'm not your superior. She downed another drink, shivering at the rush. Oh, that hit the spot. She smiled at him, you're pretty good, boy. Your Shozenjutsu was a bit weak and inefficient, but you actually managed to get rid of my headache. She looked at her hand, this wound, too, she muttered, rubbing her eyes. When did you heal this one? Naruto stared at the lady in wonder, with this seal tag. He gestured to the tag resting on the table. I placed it on your hand before I started healing your head. Physical wounds are easier for me, so the tag will suffice. I channeled enough chakra into it to fix most surface flesh wounds. Tsunade managed to pick up the tag after a few tries, holding it close to her obviously inebriated eyes. Naruto watched as she tried to understand the tag. I actually don't know how to use the Shozenjutsu. I just placed one of those tags in my palm and used it to fix your headache. He rubbed the back of his head. I actually didn't know if it would work or not. I've only theorized about healing internal ailments on paper. She turned to look at him, looking a bit soberer. What did you say your name was again? Uzumaki Naruto, Tsunade-sama. Her eyes widened a little. Who are your parents? He smiled sadly. My parents are dead, Tsunade-sama. She leaned closer to him, staring into his eyes. But my father was Namake's Minato, and my mother was Uzumaki Kushina, he whispered, making sure no one around could hear him. Tsunade's hands found their way to his face again, and she gently ran her thumbs across his cheeks. Her eyes widened and she knelt to his height, pulling him close. You're alive? She ran her fingers through his hair, combing his unkempt locks. I can't believe I never checked. Do you already know me, Tsunade-sama? She muttered, tears welling in her eyes again. Yes, I do, at least I should have much earlier than this. Are you okay? I will be, she replied, I will be. She sniffled, how old are you now, Naruto-chan? Naruto was surprised at the sudden change in attitude but smiled. I'm 8 years old, but I'll be 9 years old next week. Already almost 9 years. Tsunade gently brushed her knuckles along his cheek. 9 years. Tsunade-sama? I'm sorry, she whispered, looking down at the ground. I'm sorry, Kushina. I'm so sorry. I can't hear what you're saying, Tsunade-sama. She shook her head, looking back at him with a small smile. You look so much like your father. He chuckled, rubbing the back of his head. I hear that a lot. You made this? She asked, holding up the tag. He nodded, yes, Tsunade-sama. She looked at the tag, so he continued. If I may be honest, Tsunade-sama, my mission here is to look for you. She briefly glanced at the seal, before looking back at him. Hokage-sama really wants you to return to Konoha. And he sent you to look for me, she asked, and he nodded. How underhanded of him. Huh? Ever the shrewd man, Sarutobi-sensei. Tsunade sighed and downed another drink, still gently smiling at him. Did he tell you to show me the seal, too? No, Naruto answered, Hokage-sama doesn't even know about the seal. I invented it just recently, and I haven't perfected it yet. I'm waiting until I have the final product, before showing anything to Hokage-sama. Naruto stood tall, looking at the Sannin. I assure you, Tsunade-sama, Hokage-sama included me in this mission only because he wanted me to see the outside world for the first time. He looked down a little. This is actually my first mission. He peeked up at her, seeing her look back at him. I made this seal to help my best friend, that's it. I believe you, she said calmly, her hands returned to his cheeks. But two things can be true at once, little boy, always remember that. She smiled at him, but regardless, this is some fine work. I dabbled in fuinjutsu in my youth, trying to see if I inherited any talent from my grandmother, but I don't understand most things on this tag. This is a new sealing method I created, so you wouldn't have seen anything like it before. Naruto gestured to his seal. The principle behind most of my seals is the replication of the hand sign effects. What you see on the tag is a seal that allowed a fixed amount of chakra through very specific seal arrays that replicate specific hand signs. The arrays on this tag replicate the hand signs for the Shosen Jutsu. Tsunade pulled away from the boy and sat back on her stool, raising a brow. So you created a sealing method that can recreate any molding effects of hand signs? Hi, Tsunade-sama. She chuckled. How did the old man react when you showed him? He was very happy, the boy said, smiling, then he treated me to a lot of ramen. Tsunade laughed. You look like your father, but you act a lot like your mother. Naruto looked up at her and she ruffled his hair. She would go crazy about salt ramen. Every time she'd come home after a mission, she'd drag Minato with her and make him pay for her salt ramen. Naruto smiled and sat on the stool next to Tsunade. The poor boy followed her around like a puppy, just happy to see her happy. You knew my Ka-chan, he asked. Most people just talk about Tu-chan. I haven't heard a lot about Ka-chan. You don't know? Tsunade asked. I was your mother's Jonin sensei. What? He exclaimed. No, I had no idea. Why didn't anyone tell me? Tsunade chuckled. It made sense. Kushina was the only Uzumaki in the village and I was the only one with Uzumaki blood. Her fighting style also paired well with mine. If I had more time with her, I would have taught her my taijutsu style. She laughed, but your father would probably be even more scared of her. I always said that your father rediscovered the Hiraishin just so he could run away from your mother when she's mad. They shared a laugh. But there really was no escape for either of them, they were both so in love even when they were children. That sounds nice, Naruto whispered with a chuckle, his eyes trailing to the ground. I like hearing about them, he whispered, if only I got to meet them. They would have spoiled you rotten, Naruto-chan. Tsunade said confidently, Kushina would have never allowed you to become a genin so young. She pointed at him, above everything. She would have kept you safe at home until you meet the proper graduation age. Naruto smiled, I'm really stronger than I look, Tsunade-sama. You'll never be strong enough for a mother to not worry, Naruto-chan. Tsunade's chakra flared again and her cheeks immediately stopped flushing. Her eyes looked clearer and she no longer hiccuped. She looked completely sober. Now, where's your team leader? Naruto paused for a moment before looking around. Gigi? He should be around here somewhere. He looked outside, he told me to get a hotel room for us, and he'll come find me later. Gigi, she muttered, oh Kami, don't tell me. Hi. Naruto felt a sudden gust of wind behind him and found his godfather standing there, rubbing the back of his head with a large grin on his face. So, you are in this town. I've been hearing rumors of a trail of destruction across town with gold mines. I knew it was you. Gigi. Naruto, you little lucky charm. Jiraiya pulled the boy close by the shoulder and ruffled his hair. You found Tsunade before I did. Here I thought she'd be passing out in bars or gambling dens, but who knew she'd drink at ramen stands, too. Tsunade's lips twitched. You're lucky I'm sober right now. Had you come just a few seconds earlier, I would have pummeled you to the ground for being so loud. What about a gold mine? Asked Naruto. Katabami gold mine, it's just outside of this town. It's one of the largest gold mines in or around Hai no Kuni. It was briefly under the control of the Kurisuki crime family. Some mission requests had even been submitted, but I guess you took care of those people yourself, Haim. Kurosaki Raiga. Not a bad kill, considering how long you've been out of action. Naruto looked at Tsunade, who was still glaring at Jiraiya. You're the hero these people are celebrating, Tsunade-sama? He looked up at her, and she turned to meet his eyes. You beat Kurisuki Raiga and all his men by yourself? That's amazing. Tsunade smirked and ruffled his hair. It was nothing, Naruto-chan. Took me less than 5 minutes to get rid of those lot. Jiraiya laughed. I see you two have become fast friends. He knelt by Naruto, holding onto his shoulders. Naruto. This is surprising, right? This is Tsunade. He shook the boy before turning him to face Tsunade. Isn't she just beautiful? Thank whatever God above us. She's still as beautiful and sexy as Dash. Jiraiya choked as Tsunade punched his throat. Shut up, you old idiot. Can't you for once in your goddamn life act your age? He groaned, says the woman hiding her age. She growled, and don't you dare corrupt Naruto-chan. She pulled the boy to her side, hugging him to her side. I can't believe Sarutobi-sensei let you drag a little boy along with you. You're the last person who should be looking after a child. I am not a cheat Dash. I'll have you know that I've taken care of a lot of children in my time. Jiraiya rubbed his throat, whining at the pain. I basically raised Minato as my own son. You're the one who was day drinking in front of a child. Oh, don't think you can fool me. I know you better than anyone. She recoiled back, a bit flustered, and I am Naruto's godfather. It's only fair that I look after him. We both know that had I been in the village, Kushina would have made me his godmother. She pointed at her teammate. We also know that Kushina would have never let you take her son out of the village alone. You'd probably use him to flirt with girls and pick up mothers. I would never. He yelled, I've taken Minato on hundreds of these trips, and I've never used him like that. Not for a lack of trying on your part, I'm sure. Jiraiya pointed at Tsunade. Minato could have fulfilled his greatest potential, but no. You just had to train Kushina to be as scary as possible. You had that poor boy obsessed and terrified of her. Greatest potential? Cried Tsunade. You wanted Minato to sleep with every fangirl who came his way. If you had your way with him, he'd become the biggest man-whore in the elemental nations. And he wasn't scared of Kushina. He was in love with her, and he respected her above all else, like a true gentleman. He was a child when he fell in love with her. Jiraiya groaned. He's never even seen other pretty girls at that point. I just wanted to make sure he's certain of his feelings for Kushina. It'd be better for him to call it off back then than to have them separate after being committed. Tsunade glared at Jiraiya before looking down at a very confused Naruto. Naruto-chan, remember to never ask your godfather for any sort of relationship advice. If you have any feelings for any girls, you come and ask me about them. Naruto looked between the two, nodding automatically. Don't ask Sarutobi-sensei either, he could be just as perverted sometimes. No. Never ask her about anything. She gives the worst advice. The Sannin approached each other, nearly butting heads. Give him back. I won't have you hinder Naruto the same way. Hinder him? Tsunade smirked. Naruto-chan showed me the healing seals he created. She held the boy close by his shoulder. Obviously he has taken an interest in medical ninjutsu. I'll train him myself and make sure he doesn't have any bad influences in his life. He's going to be a fuinjutsu specialist. I'm far ahead of you in that regard. Jiraiya jumped back and pointed at her. He's also one of the village's most promising young ninja. With his development in fuinjutsu, he'll change Konoha and maybe the entire world. He needs my guidance. You shouldn't have let Sarutobi-sensei let Naruto-chan become a genin so early in the first place. Tsunade pointed back. I don't care how talented he is, he's still a child. We're not at war. Why can't you people let children be children? Because he's the most powerful child we've seen in decades. Tsunade looked suspicious as Jiraiya continued, he's miles ahead of anyone his age. Scratch that, he's stronger than literally every chunin in the village. Naruto blushed a little as Tsunade looked shocked. If we discount experience and judge only on skills, Naruto can already be a jonin. The only thing holding him back is his lack of actual experience and his immaturity. That's why he's made a genin. There's not much book learning left for him. He needs real-world experience. Tsunade narrowed her eyes. Who has been training him all this time? What kind of training regimen? Naruto was raised in the ANBU barracks by sensei. Naruto nodded as Tsunade looked at him. Don't worry, he wasn't forced to train or anything like that. Kakashi was there, Commander Ryu was there. Everyone in the barracks treats him like he's their little brother. Naruto nodded again with a smile. He had a very happy and loving childhood. His strength comes from his own hard work and talent. Tsunade's hand was on Naruto's head, softly combing through his hair. If you want to know more, feel free to come back. I'm sure Sensei will let you read through his entire report. Jiraiya smirked, I've read it and there are things in there that you couldn't even imagine. Tsunade glared at him and bit her lip. The kid is very talented in fuinjutsu. The healing tag he showed you was good, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of what he's already made. Naruto-chan, she said sweetly, will you show me your other seals? Jiraiya interrupted, Naruto, your seals are confidential, privy to only the upper tiers of Konoha's administration. He looked at an angry Tsunade, and Tsunade is not authorized to see them. But if you're willing to come back with us, you'll be reinstated as an elite jonin, head of Konoha's medical corps, and the Senju clan head. You bastard, she muttered. Naruto looked up at Tsunade, will you please come back with us, Tsunade-sama? She bit her lip at his widened eyes, Naruto-chan. I'm not asking because of my mission, he added as the two Sannin listened. I want to complete my mission, but this is about more than that. He tugged on her shirt, Ji-chan is getting old. Her eyes widened. He looks tired all the time and sometimes I see him look very sad by himself. He's starting to slouch more when he's sitting and he doesn't react as quickly as he used to. Naruto looked down, he hasn't said anything, but I can feel him getting weaker. I see him rubbing his knees, and he winces when he stands up. He looked up at a frowning Tsunade, I want to help him, but I can't. I know you can help him, Tsunade-sama. She gently patted his head. Please, just go see Ji-chan. Check to see if he's okay. He bit his lip, I'm worried he'll die if he keeps going like this. I care about Sensei, too, Naruto-chan. Tsunade lowered her head, but there are reasons why I don't want to go back. Things will change, Haim. Jiraiya stepped closer to Tsunade, they've already changed a lot. You'll read about it when you get back, but I was not kidding or exaggerating about Naruto's fuinjutsu. They will change everything. With you back, you and Naruto can combine your skills and make new strides in medical ninjutsu like we've never seen. He placed a hand on her shoulder, we can change everything now. Just like we wanted to back then. Please, Tsunade-sama. Jiraiya smirked, take all the time you need, but we're following you until you give us an answer. I'll work as hard as I can, Tsunade-sama. The boy looked frantic, I'll focus everything on medical fuinjutsu if you want me to. I can help you develop new seals for the hospital. Just come back to check on Ji-chan. Maybe we can even invent something to aid in his health. Tsunade looked down at Naruto, seeing him looking back at her while tugging on her shirt. Fine, she whispered, fine, I'll go back with you. Naruto brightened, really? She couldn't help but smile at him, yes, really. Jiraiya smiled and nodded, thank you, Haim. Tsunade knelt down to Naruto's height and pulled him close. We'll help Sensei get better. She kissed him softly on his forehead, smiling at his cute blush. I promise. Naruto smiled and nodded, thank you, Tsunade-sama. Some loud cheering suddenly erupted from the outside. Loud chants of overlapping hundreds of overlapping voices made it difficult to hear what exactly they were chanting, but they were getting louder. The ramen stall rumbled as the owner rushed out to see the crowd. The two Sannin and Naruto looked out and only saw a huge group of people following one person, all cheering and hooting behind them. Naruto looked out from his lower angle and saw the person was a young woman who was holding onto a small pig for some reason, and she looked panicked as she ran towards their direction. "Tsunade-sama," she cried in terror, "can we please leave now?" Jiraiya sighed, "You told everyone Shizune killed Raiga, didn't you?" "Hey, it's good for her reputation." Tsunade shrugged, "He's got quite the bounty on him," she muttered with a sigh, which makes up for the fact that the gold mine here is basically dry. "You were totally going to take over the gold mine for yourself, weren't you?" Tsunade smirked, "You really do know me well." Jiraiya sighed again, "Better than anyone, better than anyone." "What's going on?" asked Naruto. "New mission, Naruto," Jiraiya said as Naruto instantly stood to attention. "Go help that woman out there to safety. Take her back to our hotel room and make sure you're not followed." The boy nodded as the sage stepped over to Tsunade, "We'll come meet you shortly. We'll need to plan for our trip back to Konoha. Actually, we'll need to make one quick stop before Konoha," added Tsunade, "I'm due for a visit to the capital. We'll have to go there first, but then we'll return to Konoha." "Huh, the capital?" asked Naruto. "She'll have to explain later," said Jiraiya, "Hurry up and take that girl back to your room." "Hi, Jiraiya-sama." Naruto vanished in a golden blur, leaving Tsunade to glare at a giggling Jiraiya. "Did you have to say it like that?" Jiraiya shrugged, "What? I just told him to take Shizune back to the hotel. I didn't mean anything by it." "Fine," Tsunade muttered as she flicked her hair back, "but if Naruto-chan turns into a pervert one day and starts bringing a bunch of girls back to his room, I'll take it out on you." She smiled at him, seeing him shiver. "When that happens, I'll beat you for me and Kushina." "Why, you can't blame me for our godson being a man." "Oh, yes I can, and I will." She cleared her throat and faced him, "I'm coming back with you, but I'm not being reinstated on the active roster. I'll lead the hospital and maybe attend some clan meetings, but I'm going to be there for Naruto-chan. I'll be watching the people around him, so I better not find any perverted influences on him. If I see any little orange book stain my Naruto-chan's eyes, I'm going to neuter you." Jiraiya paled and his jaw dropped. "Oh, I'll be watching the hot spring as well. If you peep on me again, I will kill you this time." She walked out of the ramen stand before looking back at him with a wink, "And remember to pay for your godson." He ordered ramen and a lot of sake. Jiraiya felt a tinge of regret, but ultimately smiled at Tsunade's retreating back. Some things never change. He threw down some cash, "I still hate to see her go." He muttered as he followed behind her, "But don't I love to see her walk away." "No one can see us?" asked Tsunade as she looked around the dark woods, "just because of this one scroll?" "No one can see, hear, or smell us." Naruto smiled at his new godmother as he finished applying his security system on the large tree where they based their camp around. Nothing within a 25 feet radius from this tree will be detectable from the outside. If anyone passes by, they will only see a genjutsu recreation of this tree, only smell the woods, and hear owls chirp. My genjutsu generator covers most of the basic senses. This is incredibly convenient, murmured Tsunade as she traced her fingers over the scroll. It's hard to believe something so useful could be made by combining a few simple seal functions. She pondered the implications. This is one of the more basic settings, isn't it? Nothing is stopping you from using a stronger genjutsu in the jutsu formula. Naruto nodded, yes, if need be, a stronger genjutsu can be used. In an actual battle or when in enemy territory, this system can be used as a lure. We can easily reveal ourselves or something valuable to the enemy to attract their attention, and as soon as any of them see, smell, or hear anything from the seal, they will be trapped. Something as simple as Magen, Jubaku Satsu would be enough to incapacitate most enemies. Then your comrades can easily kill or capture the immobilized enemies, Shizune added, holding on to her pet pig, Taunton as she stood next to her master. How much chakra does this system require? Naruto smiled at Tsunade's apprentice, whom he found incredibly pretty and polite. There is a built-in chakra battery that I've filled with my own chakra. Each of these scrolls with their batteries alone will be enough to last for 2 full nights if only using low-level genjutsu. If we were to switch to higher-level defenses, the chakra will drain much faster, and will probably only last for an hour at most. Can you, or whoever is using the scroll, refill the chakra battery? Asked Tsunade. Yes, but for most people, it's more chakra than they could afford to spare, especially during a battle or in enemy territory. Naruto looked up at the Sannin, but for Tsunade-sama or Gigi, or even some of the elite jonin, I'm sure you'll have enough chakra to refill the battery. Tsunade smirked. So what other inventions do you have to show us? This security system has since become a part of a set of armor, Tsunade-sama. Naruto grinned and revealed another scroll. Commander Ryu and I are trying to create a new set of ANBU armor, enhanced with fuinjutsu. The security system would be built into the chest armor and could be used while the ANBU is mobile, making each member of our ANBU units potentially mobile genjutsu traps on the battlefield. Shizune shivered. That seems very lethal already. Each suit of armor will include a communication scroll that links back to ANBU headquarters in the village. It will allow the traveling team to be in contact with Konoha at all times in real time. Communication will be instantaneous and will allow Hokage-sama or Commander Ryu to command from afar. Tsunade's mind reeled. This is a lot to take in at once. This will change everything, explained Shizune. That's not all. Naruto unsealed a part of the scroll and revealed some arm guards. Each of these arm guards will be engraved with the healing seal I've shown you already, Tsunade-sama. There is a chakra expansion seal built into them as well, so the healing chakra will expand to the hands, and each member will be able to use the equivalent of the Shosen Jutsu. Tsunade looked stoic, so it would be like each member of the team would be a medical ninja. Shizune's eyes widened. They'd all be able to use medical ninjutsu. A very basic version of it, but yes. Naruto smiled. There are also the armored gloves. Each glove would have engraved upon them seals of whatever jutsu that particular ANBU member prefers to use. If they like to use futon, Daitapa often, its seal would be engraved on their glove. By channeling chakra into that glove, they would be able to cast the jutsu without any hand signs. Naruto paused for a moment to let the information sink in. Similar seals of the Shunshin no Jutsu would be engraved into the sole of each combat boot, so when need be, the ANBU member would be able to escape with a Shunshin using no hand signs. The sealing method of replicating hand signs is extremely versatile, muttered Tsunade. The ANBU Tanto will also be altered with fuinjutsu. A small seal would be engraved on each side of the blade, each a small genjutsu generator, and upon an enemy seeing either side of the blade, a small genjutsu would be cast upon them. Very subtle illusions, such as our ANBU members being a few feet to the left or being a few feet closer than they actually are. In high-speed combat, it would give our comrades an incredible advantage. Best of all, this costs the least amount of chakra to use. Tsunade nodded in understanding as Shizune gulped. This is unbelievably lethal. Of course, these are all limited by the chakra reserves of each ANBU member. Naruto sighed. I will attach a chakra battery to the chest armor, each fueled by the ANBU member's own chakra over time. Every one of these seals has a failsafe inside them, meaning they can only be used by the assigned ANBU member's unique chakra signature, so in this case, their chakra batteries can only be refilled by themselves. I assume the battery will slowly siphon off a little bit of chakra into itself at all times, slowly refilling its reserves, muttered Tsunade in thought. Yes, exactly. The battery will slowly drain the chakra of the ANBU member over time, creating essentially a secondary reserve they will be able to access during emergencies. This function can be turned off if need be, such as during missions. But when they're back home in Konoha, I'm sure they can spare some of their daily chakra to refill the battery. It would essentially be doubling their chakra reserves for missions. Tsunade smiled and pointed at her forehead. That actually functions similarly to my Sozo Sase seal. Naruto's eyes widened. Really? Yes, the principle behind the Sozo Sase was originally created by my grandmother, Uzumaki Mito. Naruto stared up at the Sannin as he listened. She was a master of every sealing method of the Uzumaki clan, and you are starting to remind me of her, Naruto-chan. Tsunade smiled and ruffled his hair. When we return to the village, I'll teach you the Sozo Sase. It's time you actually learn a bit about the Uzumaki clan. Naruto stood tall and saluted. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. But this suit of armor, Tsunade muttered, this is an absolute game-changer. Konoha has always had the advantage with our assassination squads, but with this, we will tower over the other great villages. She sighed. When they are fully revealed to the world, It will cause a shitstorm. Which is why Hokage-sama has deemed all of this fully confidential. It will not be used until times of war or emergency. Naruto sealed his scroll back into his arm, but if those times ever come, we will have an overwhelming advantage over our enemies. Tsunade patted his head. Don't go rushing into war without understanding the implications, Naruto-chan. You still have a lot to learn aside from books and theoretical work. You'll learn the world isn't so black and white, but only ugly shades of gray. The more people you love and the more people you kill, human lives somehow become priceless and worthless at the same time. It's a strange feeling that I hope you won't feel for a long time, but I must warn you that you'll have to change and mature a lot before you'll understand war. Naruto stared into her concerned eyes. I will understand in due time, Tsunade-sama. Thank you. Tsunade smiled and kissed his hair. Good, but don't grow up too quickly, Naruto-chan. Enjoy your childhood as much as you can, Naruto-kun. Shizen smiled at him and ruffled his hair. You'll miss it dearly when it's over. Naruto smiled at her. I will, Tsunade-sama, Shizen-san. Now, let's go have some dinner. Tsunade stretched her arms and smiled. I think the pervert is finished cooking. Once again in the safety of Naruto's security system, Jiraiya made a campfire to warm the chilly night and cook a nice meal. The toad sage had placed a clean blanket on the ground and filled it with more of his delicious meat skewers and roasted pepper and sweet potatoes. He had a large pot boiling over the fire, a soup of freshly picked mushrooms coupled with some tofu and miso paste he had bought back in town. By the pot and fire were several roasting fish, freshly caught by the river, smoking and sizzling. It was bright, loud and smelled great, and all were completely hidden in the night. Naruto grinned as he found a spot on the blanket, happily reaching for a skewer. Thanks, Gigi. Jiraiya smiled. You're welcome, kiddo. Yes, thank you, Jiraiya-sama. Shizen filled Tsunade's plate before filling her own. Everything looks delicious. The old man grinned. It's always a pleasure cooking for such lovely ladies. I see you picked up some new tricks, Tsunade said with a small smile. I seem to remember you burning the rabbits I caught for our dinner because you didn't know to skin them first. Jiraiya smirked as he passed her a saucer of freshly ground wasabi. I seem to remember you enjoying a bit of spice on your meat. She smirked back. Why is it that I remember everything about you, but you only remember the worst things about me? To be fair, you've done a lot of things that make me question your intelligence, and they're just hard to forget. He rolled his eyes as she chuckled, although, this is a pleasant change. We may see you become a dependable man yet. Ha, snorted Jiraiya with a smile, don't count on it, Haim. Dinner was as good as it could be for a night in the woods, homely and warm. The conversations ran strong for the two Sannin, mostly stories from their youths and days of wars gone by, stories that started to change the image Naruto had of the Sannin in his mind. The three legendary students of the Sandaime Hokage were often found between the pages of the ANBU library. Although the traitor's contribution had largely been erased, his two godparents' deeds were often touted as legends in the village. But hearing about them now, about failed stealth missions in the hot springs and drunken fights in enemy territory, Naruto wondered how much had been omitted from the books. Jiraiya finished his bowl of soup with a satisfied sigh. I impress even myself sometimes. Tsunade rolled her eyes, but smiled. Too bad you never gave me a proper chance, Haim. Watch it, you old pervert. Tsunade sipped a cup of sake. You must be getting frail in your old age. A punch from me now would kill you. I assure you, he murmured lowly to her, I'm as hard and strong as ever, Haim. Shizen blushed and hid her face behind her cup, looking anywhere but the two Sannin. As the night progressed, the two old teammates sat closer to each other. Shoulder to shoulder, they shared a familiarity that in no way revealed their years apart. If anything, they seemed as close as two people could possibly be. She laughed, downing her cup. You really haven't changed, you idiot. He returned her laugh. Never, Haim. Tsunade-sama, asked Naruto, completely oblivious to his godparents' banter, sipping on his cup of fruit juice. How long will we be in the capital for? We should inform Hokage-sama of our schedule before we proceed farther away from Konoha. The Sannin smiled at the boy. We won't be there for more than a day or two, Naruto-chan. Jiraiya smirked. Are you in a hurry to return to Konoha, kiddo? He asked slyly. Is there someone in particular you miss? Naruto blushed as Tsunade looked intrigued. No, the boy cried, I'm just curious about our schedule. Shizen smiled at the boy. We're only going to the capital so Tsunade-sama can help the daimyo with his son. Naruto turned to the young lady. Yamada Zero Uji is sick and needs our help. It shouldn't be anything too serious, so we should be on our way back to the village after a day or two. Yamada-uji? Asked Naruto. Ah, so the little prince is sick again. Jiraiya refilled his cup before refilling Tsunade's. I'm surprised, though. How did the daimyo manage to get the mighty Tsunade-sama to personally heal his son? Tsunade shrugged. It's nothing special, but I have an ongoing agreement with the daimyo. Naruto leaned closer to listen. I become his family's family doctor, and he keeps Sarutobi-sensei off my back. It's how I've had my freedom this whole time. Jiraiya nodded in understanding. I've been looking after that crazy family for almost 10 years now. Are the rumors true? Asked Jiraiya. The young prince is sickly and weak. Pretty much, muttered Tsunade, her face flushed red from the sake. That boy was born with a weak constitution. I played the midwife for his mother and pulled him into the world, but ever since then, he's been sickly and weak. Almost 3 months premature. If I hadn't been there, neither the mother nor baby would have survived. Shizun smiled, but what an incredible mother, though. Ah, yes, Tsunade said with a smirk, concubine Haruna. She chuckled, of all the births I've delivered, of all the mothers I've seen, she is probably the toughest one of all. Not once did she cry, even when the birth took hours. She screamed, sure, but she screamed like a warrior. Not a single tear fell from her that day, not even when her son was born weak and small. She just smiled like she won a war. Jiraiya chuckled, that's impressive. The same thing happened again when she gave birth again a couple of years later. Tsunade downed another cup, a little princess this time. She smiled, little Momokoheim. She downed another cup. The same complications happened. She was premature again and the birth was potentially lethal to them both. But still, she didn't cry and pushed through. Barely 20 years old at the time and already stronger than most kunoichi I've met. Shizun nodded with a smile. She even cut the umbilical cord herself. Yes, she did. Tsunade sighed, at least Momokoheim is nice and healthy. She obviously takes after her mother. She downed another cup. Yamada-uji is quite cute himself, but he's inherited a little too much from his turtle-necked father. Weak mind and body. We better hope his older brother stays healthy, or we'd be stuck with him as our next daimyo. Naruto sat closer to the fire, warming his hands. How many of these princes and princesses do we have? A lot, answered Jiraiya with a laugh. Well, we have a lot of princesses. I think we have 21 princesses. The daimyo has 18 concubines and 1 wife, and in his old age, he still likes to move around the rooms. Most of the princesses are grown and married, added Tsunade. The daimyo is quick to marry his daughters off to foreign countries. As much as money helps with alliances, nothing works quite as well as blood ties. I think we only have 5 princesses left in Hai no Kuni, still too young to be married. How many princes do we have? Asked the boy. Only 2, answered Shizun, Hikaru-uji, the heir apparent, and Yamada-uji, the much younger spare. Jiraiya downed his cup. There are a lot of wives' tales about the royal family, but almost all of them are about how the daimyo only fathered 2 sons from all his women. It's a precarious position to be in for such a paranoid man. He giggled, that's why he still works so hard at night. He's still trying to try for more sons. He's not a young man anymore, our daimyo, said Tsunade shaking her head. If he wants to secure his line, he should find a wife for Hikaru-uji and have him try for more male heirs. The boy must be around 26 years old by now. He's a picky man, our daimyo. Jiraiya shook his head, and there are rumors about Hikaru-uji enjoying the company of his armed guards more than the visiting noble ladies around the palace. Only rumors, but rarely are they baseless. Tsunade shrugged. He won't be the first daimyo to have men in his private quarters, but he should bear the responsibility of continuing his line. If he dies, the seat falls to his younger brother. I'm honestly not sure if he'll live long or strong enough to father children. In that case, started Jiraiya with a sly smile, Naruto, perhaps you should cozy up with one of the princesses in the palace. Naruto only tilted his head in confusion. If all the daimyo's sons are gone, it may fall to one of the daughters to continue their line, only the ones that are still in Hai no Kuni, of course. If you play your cards right, you could be the next pseudo-daimyo. Tsunade smacked the back of his head, knocking the sake from his hand. Idiot, she yelled with a hard glare, don't you dare try to corrupt my godson. Hey, he yelled back, he's my godson, too. I don't care. Tsunade continued, he's still a little boy and I don't need you turning him into a pervert like you. He doesn't even need my influence. Jiraiya pointed at a confused Naruto. He already has a little girlfriend waiting for him at home. Huh, wondered Shizun. What? Cried Tsunade as she turned to see the blushing boy. Ino-chan is my best friend, cried the boy. How many times do I have to tell you, Gigi? Oh please, she's only your best friend because you're both still so young, but I know better. Jiraiya smirked as he turned back to Tsunade. I didn't get the full story from sensei. But apparently our godson only began his academic stride after he met this girl. Naruto blushed harder under Tsunade's gaze. Everything he's created, everything he showed you was just to impress this girl. I didn't do it to impress her. Naruto exclaimed, but then blushed darker, only to make her happy. Tsunade's jaw dropped as Shizen giggled. This security system, the sage said as he gestured around them, was only created so Naruto could have more private alone time with his little girlfriend in their own private treehouse. He grinned as his godson hid his face behind his hands. Sensei told me that Naruto likes to sneak into the academy and steal the girl away from her class. He'd bring her back to their treehouse so they could play together. Jiraiya raised his hand at Tsunade's panic. Of course, I am using the wordplay completely innocently here. They are only children, but this is definitely the start of something bigger. Naruto-chan, murmured Tsunade as she looked at the innocent boy. That communication scroll, Jiraiya continued, was made just so Naruto could chat with little Ino-chan when they're apart. Shizen giggled again as she ruffled the burning boy's hair. Even the healing tag he showed you. Jiraiya laughed. He invented that thing just because his little girlfriend scraped her knee one time and he wanted to ease her pain. He laughed again. Pointing at Naruto, there's also that ring. I haven't figured out what that thing is used for, but I'm sure it's also connected to the girl. Naruto blushed to his roots. He's been grabbing at it ever since we left the village. I'm sure there's something there. Tsunade turned to the boy. Naruto-chan, what is your godfather talking about? And nothing. Naruto-chan, you're not supposed to lie to a higher-ranked ninja. Tsunade stared him down, and you're never allowed to lie to your godmother, so tell me. Naruto shakily raised his hand, showing his ring. This ring is made as a pair. I gave the other one to Ino-chan. The adults all stared at him, two smiling and one surprised. It works similarly to the communication scrolls. They are connected through identical chakra signatures and chakra resonance. He activated his ring and gently squeezed his hand. When I activate my ring and move my hand, Ino-chan would feel it with her ring back in Konoha. Tsunade looked shocked. So when I squeeze my hand like this, I can feel her hand in mine. Naruto looked like a tomato, for once looking like his mother. And she can feel my hand around hers back in Konoha. He felt them still staring at him. So with these rings, we can hold hands whenever we want. Oh, my goodness, cried Shizen loudly, pulling the boy into a hug. That is the cutest thing I've ever heard. Naruto blushed heavily in her arms. You are so romantic, Naruto-kun. And you're still so young. You're going to be a lady killer when you grow up. Jiraiya laughed, clutching his stomach. Oh, kiddo. You're so cheesy. Naruto sputtered. Shut up, Gigi. Ino-chan loved it. Shizen cooed at him. I'm sure she did. Tsunade downed another cup. I see this becoming a huge problem in the future. She looked at Jiraiya, especially with you in the picture. She rubbed her temples. Who is this poor girl he's ensnared? Yamanaka Ino, Jiraiya answered as Tsunade's eyes widened, the daughter of Yamanaka Inoichi and Yamanaka Emiko, the heiress to the Yamanaka clan. Shizen's eyes widened. Emiko-senpai's daughter? Emiko? Whispered Tsunade with widened eyes. She's Emiko's daughter? She looked at Naruto. You mean Kushina's son is together with Emiko's daughter? Jiraiya laughed. Yep. Naruto was released from Shizen's grasp and managed to control his blush. Do you know Emiko Obasan, Tsunade-sama? Tsunade looked at her godson. Emiko was my student, Naruto-chan. His eyes widened. She was on the same team as your mother. She smiled. They were very close, the very best of friends. They were basically like sisters. Before your mother married your father, she lived together with Emiko. They have been inseparable since they were children. Really? Whispered Naruto. So, Emiko Obasan knew who I was when she met me? He looked at his godparents as he squeezed his hand, holding on to Ino's hand. I thought she had allergies or something, he muttered, recalling back his surrogate aunt's odd tears. Is that why she was crying? She was crying? Tsunade frowned. So, she never knew about you until recently. Jiraiya shook his head. No one except a few people knew. Naruto nodded. She cried a little bit, but then she hugged me. Is that why she's always been so nice to me? You're basically her real nephew, Naruto-chan. Tsunade sighed, missing her old genin. She would love you like her own flesh and blood. She rubbed her eyes, perhaps it was fate that you're so close with her daughter. I'm sure Emiko and Kushina are elated that you are so close. She laughed and winked at the boy, if you two ever get married, it'll be their wish come true. I think the girls had a pact saying that their children would either be best friends or lovers. In your case, it could be both. Naruto blushed and looked away, she's just my best friend, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade giggled, I think it's time you stop calling me Tsunade-sama, Naruto-chan. The boy tilted his head, what should I call you? I liked it when you called me Nei-chan, but as your godmother, I don't think you should call me that. Tsunade smiled as Jiraiya smiled at her, what do you want to call me? Naruto grinned, well, since I called Jiraiya-sama Gigi, can I call you Bachan? The smile drained from Jiraiya's face as he and Shizune looked horrified. It makes sense, right? And Naruto, stuttered Jiraiya. Tsunade chuckled, making Jiraiya and Shizune shiver, but then they saw that she was genuinely smiling. Yes, that makes sense. Kushina and Emiko, she started as she glanced at Shizune, all my students are like the children I never had. Shizune smiled before she nodded at Naruto. You are my godson and Kushina's son, so calling me Bachan makes sense. Naruto smiled brightly, thank you, Bachan. Jiraiya smirked and leaned closer to Tsunade, whispering into her ear, with you as Bachan and me as Gigi, it's like we're married, Haim. She elbowed him in the ribs, making him cough into the ground, don't ruin this for me, you idiot. She stared at him groaning on the ground, but he looked up at her with a smile, I love it when you hit me, Haim. I will kill you, Jiraiya. Then I would die with a smile on my face. Naruto smiled at his godparents, extremely happy his family was growing so quickly. He then felt Ino squeeze his hand back, making him smile down at his ring, wondering just how much longer he must wait until he saw her in person again. Heiankyo, the ancient capital of Hai no Kuni settled on the southeastern quadrant of the nation, barely a day's travel away from Konoha. It sat in the valley of two spanning mountain ranges, surrounding the flourishing city with a natural rocky barrier. Twin rivers speared through the city, wide enough of either one to support many pleasure barges along the current. Given that, the city had no walls, only stretching fields of blooming flowers that welcomed all traveling nobles or visitors. From afar, it looked massive and prosperous, and upon seeing it up close, bustling and bejeweled, Naruto realized just how rich the daimyo must be. This is amazing, murmured Naruto, following behind his godparents and Shizune. I've never seen buildings like these in Konoha. The daimyo admires the design of many different architect masters around the elemental nations, so you'll find a variety of different styles around the city. The two stone bridges that connect the sides of the city split by the twin rivers were built by stonemasons from Tsuchi no Kuni long before the Great Wars. You'll also see almost gravity-defying hanging towers lining the daimyo's palace, a gift from Kaminari no Kuni after the Second Great Ninja War. Jiraiya smirked as he led his godson around. There is a lot of history here, made to glorify past conflicts. Naruto chuckled, well, at least they're good to look at, I guess. Most of Konoha was built by my grandfather, added Tsunade, so the design of the buildings was all made similar to the old Senju clan village. You'll find most other cities and villages around the continent will have different looking designs. As loud as the bustling streets were, Naruto noticed the quick hush of silence whenever anyone noticed his godparents' presence, followed by the loud whispers once they walked ahead. It seemed that the reputation of the legendary Sannin still flourished in the capital. He doubted the regular civilians had access to bingo books, but they clearly recognized his godparents' faces. Naruto wondered if it was a disadvantage, being so famous. Everyone knew who they were, so it was nearly impossible to feign ignorance. The main road of the city led to the daimyo's palace, a gargantuan structure that towered over all other buildings in the city. Lined with flying banners, Naruto followed along as they made their way to the palace, people parting to allow them through. It was an upward climb as the palace sat upon a tall hill in the middle of the city, and soon they were met with a tall gate. The entire palace was surrounded by a tall stone wall, segregated with watch towers that lined the top, each guarded by multiple men. Tsunade-sama, cried the two guards posted at the gate, welcome back. Sorry I'm late, she replied, waving off the bowing men. I was sidetracked by this old idiot. The guard followed her finger to see Jiraiya, and they once again bowed low. Jiraiya-sama. It is an honor for you to return to the palace. Please, allow us to bring you all inside. Daimyo-sama awaits your presence. Jiraiya smiled, of course, and I'm sure Daimyo-sama won't mind the presence of our apprentices here, will he? Of course not, Jiraiya-sama. The guard never looked up at them. Please follow us. Naruto followed behind his godparents as the gargantuan gates opened with a deep rumbling, groaning as they parted to reveal the stone path ahead. Once again, it was a trek upward, and he closely followed behind Jiraiya, hiding himself as his head darted around, taking in the wondrous inner workings of the palace. The gates opened to a wide open space, pierced by the stone road. A wide garden stretched to either side of the inner walls, filled to the brim with blooming red and white flowers. It reminded Naruto a little of the Yamanaka estates, but this was even larger. At least a dozen palace maids were working in the flower fields, some watering the plants and some plucking away from flowers into a fresh bouquet. Ahead, Naruto saw one of many large buildings inside the palace walls, and it was lined from edge to edge with guards, each holding a spear and carrying swords. Dressed completely in traditional red and white armor. He could sense that all of them were chakra users, and they all had their attention on them. Naruto wondered if anyone would check their papers, but none even dared look over in their direction. Instead, they were led straight into the building. Again, more guards were positioned inside the building, arranged in a square formation that hid in each corner of the large room. But they didn't stay as the two guards led them through this building and into another spanning garden. It was even larger than the one before, and also filled edge to edge with blooming flowers. The stone path split into multiple paths, leading into the garden and around the courtyard, but they still followed the main one in the center. Eventually, they approached the tallest building inside the walled fortress, and stepping inside, Naruto saw it was a mostly empty room filled end to end with tatami mats. Bamboo curtains hid the center of the room, but they were lifted as the group approached, and soon Naruto saw his godparents and Shizune bow to the man sitting in the middle of the room on a throne. Daimyo-sama, they greeted in unison, and Naruto quickly bowed along with them. With his head down, Naruto sensed the room and found that they were surprisingly alone. No guards were placed in the throne room, the only protection was from the guards waiting by the door. Ah, came the surprisingly carefree voice of the daimyo, Tsunade, Jiraiya. I wasn't expecting the both of you today. Tsunade nodded stoically. I am needed back in Konoha, so Jiraiya was sent to summon me back. As soon as we're done here, we'll be heading to Konoha. Oh, ho ho, chuckled the daimyo behind his fan, so you're returning to Konoha after all this time. I am, daimyo-sama. Good, good, he said. Hokage Dano is getting old. It's a relief to see his students returning to aid in his running of the village. The Sannin bowed. Indeed, daimyo-sama. I apologize for delaying your return, Tsunade. I'm afraid Prince Yamada has once again come down with some kind of sickness, and you know, I only trust you to take care of my son. The man sighed, fanning himself. It is not quite as bad as the one last year, but the boy is still bedridden. I pray to the gods for his health and strength, but it seems it is not enough. The prince is still young and growing, daimyo-sama. Tsunade nodded curtly. I'm sure with time, he will develop into a healthy young man. In the meantime, you can rely on me to help him. I know I can, Tsunade. The man nodded with a smile, but Tsunade, it seems you brought more company today. I recognize your wonderful student, Shizune bowed to the man, but I'm afraid I've never met the boy. Naruto immediately bowed to the man, he looked quite familiar. The daimyo chuckled. With such spiky blonde hair, is he yours and Jiraiya's son? Everyone sputtered, but none more so than Tsunade. No, daimyo-sama. Jiraiya managed a strained smile. He looks familiar because he is the son of the Yondaime Hokage, daimyo-sama. The daimyo sat up and looked at Naruto in surprise. His name is Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, the future clan head of the Uzumaki clan and newly appointed genin of Konohagakure no Sato. Naruto bowed again. It's a pleasure to meet you, daimyo-sama. Oh, exclaimed the old man, so you are, young man. I must say, you are a spitting image of your father. Already a genin, too. Jiraiya smiled. Naruto is a very talented young man. I'm sure you'll be hearing much more about him in the future. The daimyo nodded. Yes, yes, I'm sure. He looked at Naruto. How old are you now, young man? I am 8 years old, daimyo-sama, he answered, wondering if he should clarify, but I will be 9 years old in a week. I see, muttered the man, you are of a similar age to my youngest son and some of my daughters. He chuckled behind his fan, who knows? Perhaps you all will work together quite closely in the future. Naruto bowed. It would be my honor, daimyo-sama. Yes, yes, good, good. At that moment, Naruto sensed someone hiding above the daimyo, behind the titles of the ceiling. Daimyo-sama, be careful. In an instant, Naruto reacted by throwing a shuriken at the ceiling, causing a sharp cry of shock to come from behind the tiles. Before he could blink, Naruto saw Jiraiya and Tsunade guarding both sides of the daimyo, and he then heard footsteps above him. The assailant was trying to escape. Carefully, Naruto blasted the ceiling with a gust of wind, plowing through the tiles like paper. The assailant fell from the ceiling, a falling shadow that Naruto was upon in an instant. He grabbed the black cloth of the person's clothing with his left hand and raised his right. Flaring his chakra, Naruto channeled a bright glow to his right palm, and using the training he had been doing non-stop for the past 3 days. He compressed and rotated his chakra into a swirling vortex of power. Rasengan. As he was about to end the threat to the daimyo, he stopped. He realized he was looking into the scared eyes of a child, someone no older than him. She had long, flowing red hair that fell from her black hood, teary violet eyes that stared up at him with the innocence of a doe, and pink lips that quivered with the slightest of whimpers. Aye. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as she stuttered to him. Please don't hurt me, she managed, I was just playing. Who are you? He asked, still staring at her. I am Momoko Haim. Naruto immediately dropped her to the ground, his Rasengan dissipating. He then heard her painful grunt as she hit the ground. In a panic, he scrambled an apology before he scooped the girl from the ground, holding her in his arms, in a familiar bridal carry. I am sorry, Haim-sama. He looked into her eyes as he spoke, hoping to see her tears vanish. I thought you were attacking Daimyo-sama. He saw tears still welling in her eyes, but her face was also starting to turn dangerously red. Please tell me if I hurt you at all. I'll heal you right away. The princess only stared up at him, lips still quivering as her face burned. Does it hurt anywhere, Haim-sama? Shizune stood to the side, holding on to Taunton as she giggled at the boy and girl. Oh, please tell me if anything hurts? Jiraiya and Tsunade smacked their faces as the daimyo actually laughed at the scene. Please don't execute me, Haim-sama. This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.